The dominoes just keep falling. Volkswagen has announced that they will be adopting the North American charging standard for all vehicles sold in North America, and there's just a few people left, but a whole lot of interesting developments kind of surrounding it. We'll discuss those. I'm Brian. Welcome to my Tesla Weekend. Joining me is Herbert from Brighter with Herbert. We watch him to get brighter, and he's got some interesting stuff to share with us about this. So first of all, did you hear the news? Volkswagen joining the NACS club.
Yes, it was. They're a very important participant to finally join. They're big. Sometimes even considered to be the largest company, automaker. I think they trade places with Toyota and Stellantis every once in a while. So it's very, very important for them. But even more important, why Volkswagen joined is because, based on what happened with the emission scandal, they were forced to build Electrify America. And so Electrify America had built a significant network for charging across the US. And now they had to, I don't know what the word is, bend the knee. And it must have been very embarrassing for them. And that's why they were one of the last companies to finally fall. But basically, it's over. I mean, we knew it was over, right? They needed to join in. But it's just symbolically so critical that they finally said, yeah, we're doing it. And like I said, they're the second largest automaker in the world.
And Toyota had already joined the coalition, so they're on board. And then we see, and why wouldn't they join it? Do you know who's still not on board? There's one big player left, Stellantis. And they really need to get their act together because they don't have many EVs in the US at all. They've got some in Europe, but they don't seem terribly excited about bringing them to the US. So then we've got Tesla Boomer Mama found this pretty awesome job posting. Go ahead.
Before we get into that story, if it's okay,
please.
I want to just remind folks that at the beginning of this year, Tesla's NACS standard was just Tesla. It really is that quick of how every automaker finally fell, starting with Ford. When did they do that? June? You've got the list.
It went very quickly. I would point out that Aptera was technically first, but they're not in production. And it remains to be seen. They hope to be in production next summer, late next summer, but we shall see. But they were the first. I don't know how much influence that had on Jim Farley's decision to move forward to NACS. That was clearly a discussion that had been ongoing for quite some time. So then there's this job posting. Did you see it?
I saw it. Very exciting.
Tell me what you think of that.
Well, if you show it to the folks here, when you read about it, first of all, it's a job posting about Tesla's hiring people to do B2B sales, right? They're looking for the Fortune 100s. How big of a company are these that they're going to go after to sell charging networks, charging capability. And it's going to be like, allowing the big corporations to put, is it superchargers or destination chargers or something like that. That's what it says. But I read way more than that. And I'm sure I'm reading way more into that. And I can explain to you. But that's what I saw.
Well, I will have you explain that to me. But first, let's just name some companies in the Fortune 100 and how they could benefit. Hilton and Marriott. Was it Marriott that came on? Holiday Inn?
No. Hilton already announced a charging network, partnership with Tesla in September. And then just a couple of weeks ago was Best Western kind of agreed to as well. Each of them, 2,000 hotels. And they're going to have, 20,000 charging stations in their locations. So it's, as you and I were saying, we're going to see a tsunami of partnerships. We're going to see McDonald's and we're going to see, Home Depot and every major corporation you can think of. They're going to have to say, I'm going to have charging stations here as well. So if you come and shop at my store, you'll be able to charge. And they're going to likely choose Tesla. So it's no longer, we're going to see a tsunami of these things coming for sure.
Yeah. And there are so many companies that can benefit. Anyone who has any kind of retail footprint, anyone who has a large manufacturing footprint, get them up for your employees. It's a very cheap benefit to offer your employees. Sonic drive-ins is one that to me is just itching for something like this because you already pull into a stall next to power. Adding a little more juice will not be that painful, especially if you just limit it to new stores. But then you've also got all the gas stations. They could be adding superchargers. Who else could add superchargers, do you think, other than gas stations?
So if it's a supercharger, I would assume it'd be like the quick in and out kind of people. So I think it's like things like Starbucks. Now we just announced that Starbucks announced a partnership with Volvo a month ago, and they were using the ChargePoint chargers, the CCS chargers. Uh, but that was because they had already planned this a year, 2 years ago. And so they had already planned that they were going to do this partnership and it was delayed. And so finally, when it's launched and it's physically launched now, it was kind of like weird because Volvo is already a partner with NACS as well with Tesla. So they will, yes, they've got this going with Volvo, which is a tiny little company and it's ChargePoint. They're going to do a partnership with Tesla, Starbucks.
For sure. There's the possibilities are just about endless, and Tesla's taking it seriously. But you suggested it could be something bigger. Tell us about that.
I'm reading way too much of this, Brian. So don't hit me in the comments.
Oh, hit
But
him in the comments. Hit him in the comments.
so the idea was that if you're like a Frito-Lay and you're a Pepsi and you've bought Tesla Semi and you're probably going to make a show on this as well. This is one of your big topics you've been doing so much research on. Tesla Semi, right? I think Tesla announced that they're going to go full production on Tesla Semi 2024. It's ready to go, right? I think that there's also a count of maybe 100 semis at this point. But let's say that Pepsi buys the Tesla Semi. Well, they're not going to just buy the Tesla Semi. They're going to buy mega chargers along the routes, but they're going to have mega chargers and superchargers in their factories, right? When the semi is there parked and being filled.
Right?
And then they're going to buy solar panels and they're going to have mega pack batteries. So this is going to be a full energy generation utility at each corporation.
Wow.
And their roofs are going to be solar panels because they're going to convert not only charging the electric vehicles that they buy, but also their business. Just like Tesla, you've been following so closely the solar panels that they are installing in Giga Texas. And did you see the aerial footage of that? It's like beautiful
Yeah.
of the Tesla logo, and it's all solar panels. So I think when I read into it and I tried to read a little closer, and they do say like charging products. I think it could go beyond just, do you want to have a supercharger or a destination charger? I think this is going to be, do you want megapack batteries? Do you want to have solar panels? uh, you know,
And
and
and let's design the system for you and price it in a way that works and determine a delivery schedule. And the number of back orders on semis is low. It's in the thousands. It's a number that Tesla, once they reach volume production, would blow through in a heartbeat. And I don't know how big the appetite is for all of these different companies, but I assume in the 400, 500 mile range, it is a vast chunk of the market. And if you consider the extra weight, it only drops the total cargo capacity by a couple thousand pounds, which is not that much. The thing with commercial customers is they know their route, they know their cargo. It's not like you and I, where one day we need to just drive ourselves and the next day we need to drive the family. With most commercial routes, they know exactly what they need and they can make the easy decision of whether or not it works for them. So that's pretty exciting. In terms of NACS, what do you think Stellantis is doing? What are they waiting for? Are they going to join? Are they never going to join?
I think Stellantis is just completely inept. They're just in massive issues, considerations.
Systemic problems.
They got their own big things going. There's no doubt at this point that there's any strategy that they're going to stand alone and say no and somehow, you know, but if they cut back in their EV growth production, they don't need to make these kinds of announcements. Like the question people asked was, why was Ford the very first one to strike a partnership? And the answer makes the most sense, which is they are the ones that sell the most electric vehicles. And so if you sell, not beyond Tesla, right?
Right.
But the next big one. So if you sell enough Ford F-150s and then you get all these customer complaints because they're taking your cars and they're driving everywhere, you're going to see so much complaints, you're forced to do it. But if you're only selling 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 EVs a year, you don't need to make this partnership.
And I also think that Jim Farley did a road trip across the country in his F-150 Lightning,
Yep.
and he got to experience what his customers experience, which was a less than Tesla experience. I have never had a problem at a Tesla supercharger. I've only been to a
Never.
few, and I've been to a
100%
handful. Yeah.
Perfect.
Every time, everywhere I've ever been. And I watched a video yesterday of some road tripping some folks were doing in an R1T while towing. And when they pulled up to their first charge, they said, let's see what happens. It's like, oh, that's your experience. That's your everyday.
Exactly. It's scary. Can you imagine it? You're heading to your charging station and you don't even know if it's going to work or not. 50% of these, non-Tesla charging networks they don't work. They're not even available.
So guys, in the comments, what do we miss? What do we misunderstand? Leave it so we know, so we also can be brighter like Herbert. That's fun. So everybody else, like, subscribe, hit the buttons, do the usual things, and stay tuned, stay juicy. And I can't wait to hear from you clever robots on the flippity flop.